I mean, it's like there's a good chance that crypto is the future currency of Earth.
Okay, so despite crypto supposedly being the future of all currency on Earth, as per Elon Musk, we find ourselves down several percentage points today. The market cap down 4.5% at the time of this recording, with Bitcoin retracing after touching up above 40K, with Ethereum retracing from its all-time highs of around 1760, 1770 or so. In fact, there are only really a couple of exceptions, because across the board, you're seeing retracements to the tune of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. But we do have a couple of major exceptions. We're going to be discussing Cardano today, up 7% in the last 24 hours. Dogecoin up 33.5%. Courtesy of Elon Musk, who you heard up there at the top of the episode. We're also going to be discussing a couple of projects that we've talked about in recent days. And as a result of just organic hype, as a result of being in the news via partnerships, via just regular publicity, Elrond, EGLD, up 33.3% in these last 24 hours. We've been following Elrond pretty closely. Check out videos from the last couple of days in which we discussed some EGLD project updates specifically, but they're up now to over $130. Again, up over 33% in these last 24 hours. That's up over 38.6% over Bitcoin. So again, up 33% in a down market. Not too bad. Avalanche is another exception. Ticker AVAX, up 32.2% in these last 24 hours to now over $23. So, we're happy to see this. And Avalanche certainly isn't a small project, market cap of $1.6 billion. But what I find kind of, not particularly, but what I do find surprising is the fact that Cardano is performing as well as it is against the market right now, up 5.8% in the last 24 hours, up to $62. Excuse me, not just yet, maybe one day, 62.7 cents right now. But I was going to say that Cardano is a big boy. It's nearly $20 billion in market cap. So for this kind of move in this kind of market conditions that we're seeing is very significant. And there's different reasons for that. But in fact, Cardano is even higher. Cardano touched up above 70 cents in the last day or so. So just unbelievable, exceptional performance here. During, overall, let's be honest, it's a bit of a retracement right now that's happening. So kudos to ADA. Different reasons for this. As per fxstreet.com, they're suggesting that, we're going to get up above what used to be the previous all-time high, which was about $1.18. FX Street saying that we're on a $2 bull run right now as ADA regains traction because whales are stepping in. So Cardano price is up more than 50% in these last 3 days. In fact, up about 100% in the last week or so. It's because they rolled out a new network update. You may have heard about this. ADA's uptrend shows no sign of stopping, although it did slow down a little bit. And on-chain data suggests the presence of whales behind the current price action supporting further advance. We're going to take a look at some of the reasons for this price pump. We're also going to get Charles Hoskinson's take specifically on the issue. So the so-called Ethereum killer has been on fire throughout 2020 and now in 2021. Cardano's price first saw a 600% increase in its market value between March and July of last year. And the more recent run, again, about 100% in the last week or so, has come by way of a significant update to ADA's blockchain. The Goguen Mary update allows users to create common on-chain tokens that are native to the network, making ADA a multi-asset blockchain. Let's see what Charles Hoskinson has to say with a little bit, I would say, of a hostile response here in response to some of the Ethereum, hate that he's been absorbing lately. But you can follow IOHK_Charles here on Twitter. Now that we are surging, expect relentless bile and slander from the Ether maximalists. Heads down, keep building, and ignore them. We got a world to restore, and there are bigger monsters to slay. In response to this here by James Spediacci. By Cardano, you mean the empty, centralized blockchain founded by the guy who was fired by Vitalik for trying to turn Ethereum into a centralized corporate blockchain like Hyperledger so he could become CEO and later tried to pull a coup with Ethereum Classic? Nah. Look, guys, there is no room for this kind of partisan bickering when it comes to cryptocurrency. We don't all want to devolve into Roger Ver here, okay? This is how I see it. I am not quite an Ether maximalist, although I'm a huge proponent of Ethereum, that's for sure. I wouldn't quite say I'm a maximalist, though. but at the same time, not all that far from being an Ether maximalist either. Of course, I have room for Bitcoin. Of course, I have room for altcoins, but Ethereum probably is my favorite project. That being said, I'm a realist and I'm an objectivist as well. Empiricism is the name of the game. That's kind of my jam. So here's how I see it. Ether has its values, it has its benefits, it has its pros and its cons. We know what some of those cons are. Congestion, sluggishness, record high network fees at the moment, but it's also a little bit behind the curve when it comes to smart contracts. I have no problem, even though Ethereum is my favorite project in the space right now, I have no problem admitting that yes, of course Cardano has advantages and it's going to be better when it comes to smart contract execution. That's where the advantage lies. So this partisan bickering, we're turning this into a new political spectacle almost. I have no patience for this kind of stuff. I'm actually a little bit surprised by Charles Hoskinson here. Like at the height of, I guess, the local height of Cardano's popularity right now, this is what he's spending his time doing. Like, just forget about these people. These are just gnats on flies on the wall. Just ignore them completely. Which I guess is kind of his message here. He's literally saying that we should ignore them, but I wouldn't even call any attention to them in the first place. Guys, in any diverse portfolio, you have to be willing to entertain, some companies that may be competitors of your other companies. And if I believe in Ethereum, then I have reason to believe that Cardano is going to be successful as well. And why not just own both and use each almost as a hedge against the other? I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but that's how I see it. So kudos to all of you members of the Altcoin Buzz army that have been holding ADA. I really do expect that we're going to blast past, in the relatively near future, blast past those previous all-time highs. Again, those occurred somewhere, I guess about 3 years ago or so. January 2018. So a little bit over 3 years ago, Cardano did hit a price of $1.18. I wouldn't at all be surprised looking at the last 6 months or so and this build up here that, number one, we not only blast beyond $1.18, but we get to $2, $3. I'm hearing of some projections in the range of $7, $8, $9, $10. I personally don't think we're going to cross the $10 mark, but somewhere between 5 and let's say 9, that's realistic to me. So again, kudos for those of you that have held on and that acquired, that bought up the dip. Congratulations. So we talked about Elrond, we talked about Avalanche, we talked about Cardano. The other monster here that is up just below now a $10 billion market cap and up over 33% on the day is Dogecoin. Back at it again. It found its second wind here, courtesy of Elon Musk, that rascal. So Dogecoin now back up over 7 cents. And as you can see, it's kind of, been a bit of a double top, but you could argue that this is now turning into an ascending triangle here formation if you look at the last 14 days or so. And very steadily incremental increases here, higher highs, higher lows for Dogecoin. As, a combination, I guess, of the hype that Elon is building up, a combination of the Wall Street bets attention that Dogecoin has been getting here. Elon Musk tweeting, so it has finally come to this. Like he said himself, he has become meme, destroyer of shorts. Not that anybody in particular was shorting Dogecoin though. So I don't know. This is becoming very meta for my liking. Elon Musk really just milking it here, just diving into this head first. The future currency of Earth, as we saw right at the outset of the video here. I guess he was referring to crypto as a whole, but with this clearly casual and facetious poll, Dogecoin to the moon, all other crypto combined, 71.3% of 2.4 million votes voting for Dogecoin to the moon, above all other crypto combined. I'm not so sure it's a scientific poll, but there you go. You never know with Elon Musk, I suppose, and kudos as well if you held on to some Doge and if you've been able to ride this most recent wave on the way up. All right, getting a little bit more serious now. We have some macro observations to report here. Legendary investor Bill Miller's flagship fund may now buy GBTC, that is Grayscale's Bitcoin fund product, in order to gain Bitcoin exposure up to 15%. So the fund noted that it would not expose more than 15% of its $2.25 billion assets into Bitcoin. Quote, the fund may seek investment exposure to Bitcoin indirectly by investing in the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, an entity that holds Bitcoin, the fund wrote in a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust invests principally in Bitcoin. The fund will not make any additional investments in the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust if As a result of the investment, its aggregate investment in Bitcoin exposure would be more than 15% of its assets at the time of investment. And again, total assets under management now represent about $2.25 billion. In fact, it's probably more because that was a snapshot at the end of last year, so December 31st. If you do some of the math, 15% of that $2.25 billion is about equivalent to $337 million. So a huge chunk of change here going into Bitcoin, courtesy of Grayscale with their GBTC product. And look, he may not be a household name. You may not recognize it, but Bill Miller is a legendary investor. And this is a major signal from him that is going to cascade all the way down into other family offices, investment houses, hedge funds, you name it. But this is a very significant move. And by the way, 15% is a major allocation. For the longest time, people were saying, look, 1 or 2% couldn't hurt, 3% maybe. But even a lot of prominent investors were saying not more than 1%. So that was considered sort of the conservatively optimistic approach. Then, we heard people like Jim Cramer saying, well, 5% of your lottery winnings could be a reasonable idea for Bitcoin. I don't think we even covered 10%. And now all of a sudden 15%. Like, that's a major level of exposure when you're investing $237 million. But at the same time, why not? People see the writing on the wall, that they see the direction that Bitcoin is moving in. They want to be able to profit and are doing so with a larger and larger allocation of their funds. So kudos to Bill Miller. His impact here is going to raise the entire sector. Absolutely. From the macro international perspective now, CN Ledger, Chinese local court auctions 2,100 government-seized Bitcoin miners online with a reserve price of only about $1,500 US. Wow. It now has 70 bidders and 40 times the reserve price. Owners of the miners were sentenced up to 13 years in jail because stealing electricity when mining Bitcoin. In previous news, there were about 4,000 miners and 14 Bitcoin seized. The Bitcoin was paid to electricity company as compensation. Not sure what happened to the remaining 1,900 miners. Well, look, I've made the point before that you can never ban cryptocurrency. You cannot ban anything that is decentralized to the extent that the blockchain is. But, certainly you can anecdotally make examples out of people and try to scare everybody else into submission. I guess that's what the Chinese government is doing right here. I would like to see more info on this so-called stolen electricity. That seems like, not a loophole, that wouldn't be the expression, but it seems like the Chinese authorities are kind of throwing the book at these miners and, just kind of using that as the excuse. Again, to the extent that, we can get real transparent journalism to look into this, I'd be very curious as to the details here. The more granularity on this story would be very welcome. But while we're on the subject of China, I want to highlight this tweet here by World One Exchange. Disclaimer, I am part of the leadership of World One Exchange. It's a cool digital wallet that is catering specifically to fintech outside of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and altcoins, particularly CBDCs and stablecoins. But this was our kind of observation. In fact, I tweeted this. You can follow at World One X on Twitter for similar content. Swift's endorsement of China's CBDC or the digital yuan is a significant step toward the international interbank standardization of central bank digital currencies, as well as one last desperate grasp at relevance for SWIFT. In case you're not familiar with SWIFT, first of all, it's a dinosaur system literally devised in the 1970s. It stands for the Society of Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications, and it's basically the way that you wire money across borders, overseas, internationally. One bank receives it, passes it on and so forth, but it's relatively slow. It's extremely slow, actually. It's extremely expensive. I've noted before that, yes, it is reliable. To Swift's credit, it's a reliable system, but it's completely outdated right now. It's a total anachronism by today's standards. And at least in my opinion, they're trying to kind of jump onto this CBDC, central bank digital currency bandwagon in some desperate effort to stay relevant, because what else can they do, honestly? Again, SWIFT is the global system for financial messaging and cross-border payments. And so they've sent up this joint venture is effectively what it is with the Chinese central bank and their new digital currency research institute and clearing center. So it's a sign, at least in my opinion, that China is exploring the global use, not only domestic use and national use, but global use of its so-called digital yuan or CBDC or DECP. It goes by different names. Again, this is kind of outside of the wheelhouse of altcoin buzz, but I think ultimately, just like, kind of Wall Street bets to a certain extent, to a large extent, affected crypto and altcoins and now Dogecoin and other projects. I think with time, this whole CBDC scene is going to very much affect the world of digital currencies, digital assets, cryptocurrencies. It's all going to kind of mesh, if not kind of fuse together. It's certainly going to be kind of side by side. You're going to have these adjacent fintech sectors, and this is one that's going to be straddled right up next to cryptocurrency. So check it out. We'll link to this Reuters piece in the description below. More Bitcoin macro news here, and this time from, I guess, a punitive stance as well, similarly to China. So South Africa has imported her first Bitcoin ATM, while Nigeria has placed a ban on cryptocurrency. And now you're beginning to see this dichotomy between countries kind of in the same region, where you have one that's pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin, and another that's anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto, anti-altcoins. And to me, it's just going to exacerbate the wealth disparity between the two. So we're seeing this now between South Africa, again, pro-Bitcoin, Nigeria, unfortunately, anti-Bitcoin, anti-crypto. The same thing exists with countries like Pakistan and India. We saw that Pakistan is using excess energy, as is Ukraine, by the way, in the case of Ukraine, excess nuclear energy to mine Bitcoin. So again, pro-crypto stance. And then you have countries like India that are imposing bans. It doesn't make sense to me, at least in my opinion. Strategically, it makes zero sense. This is ultimately like a prisoner's dilemma on a global scale. This is game theory. As long as you have one or two countries that are pursuing Bitcoin, everybody has to get on that same page. And maybe India, and in this case, Nigeria, are just projecting like a hardline stance, but I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. If you have your ear to the ground in these nations, if you are a Nigerian or an Indian member of the altcoin buzz army, help me straighten this out, because I just don't understand the strategy personally. Michael Saylor here commenting on what we discussed, actually, I guess it was the other day in the other day's video. For billions of people, Bitcoin represents hope. This is courtesy of Alex Gladstein here from a couple of days ago. Bitcoin is emerging as a powerful force for human rights across the world. And in this new video, for Reason, I explain how. I'm going to link to this again in the description below. It's a great video. It's very much, expressive of the spirit and the sentiment that now Ukraine, South Africa, and Pakistan, as well as many other countries, Venezuela, Iran, for example, others, it represents the sentiment and the spirit that they're embracing. It's also being embraced by Russ here, Russell Okung of the Carolina Panthers, major hero of the Bitcoin movement in the NFL. One of the farmers today asked me what I do from day to day. Of course, the NFL season, the playoffs are over for Russell. So his response, quote, "I talk about Bitcoin. I talk to entrepreneurs about Bitcoin, and I work on how to accumulate more Bitcoin." His face. There you go. Keep doing it, Russ. We appreciate it. Tyler Winklevoss. The money printer is getting ready to go brr for another $1.9 trillion advertisement for Bitcoin. If you've not been following political news or developments out of Washington, monetary, fiscal policy kind of stuff, take a look here, cbsnews.com. Democrats push forward with $1.9 trillion COVID bill clearing Senate hurdle. I won't quite comment as to, whether or not I feel this is necessary, whether or not like the idea of a stimulus is something that should be implemented. I want to kind of avoid that discussion, but there are consequences to economic policy, and one of the real world ramifications of this will be inflation, which is already spiraling out of control. We're already I would argue, a decade into the era of funny money. And this is just, even if it's not the kind of thing that you recognize on the shelves of the grocery store or the pharmacy, like this to me just totally invalidates the worth of the US dollar, which, don't get me started on that, because that happened decades ago when Nixon took the USD off the gold standard. So it's just the latest problem that particular fiat currency is facing in a decades long line of problems. But hey, just my opinion. Speaking of politics, though, there are some good ones out there. Representative McHenry here, who's talking about how government cannot stop the innovation of cryptocurrency. I'm going to suggest quickly before I play the clip that this guy has been, I think, I would say under the radar for a while. But this back from 2019, about a year and a half ago on Forbes, this U.S. congressman thinks Bitcoin will have enormous value and utility over the long term. And we've mentioned his name, but he's not getting nearly the attention or the press that he should. So I'll play the clip right now, and guys, let me know what you think about it.
Change is here. Digital currencies exist. Blockchain technology is real. The world that Satoshi Nakamoto, author of the Bitcoin white paper, envisioned, and others are building, is an unstoppable force. We should not attempt to deter this innovation, and governments cannot stop this innovation. And those that have tried have already failed.
Wise words, at least in my opinion, and I think the world is starting to wake up to it. Guys, that is about it for today. Do be sure you are following us on all the regular social media channels. Keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed today's video. Best of luck, of course, if you choose to invest on the tail end of your weekend. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Hope you enjoy the game tonight. If you are watching, stay safe out there. And as always, we hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.